Israel has wrapped itself in this cloak of victimhood, saying we are the victim of terrorists, therefore we have an inherent right of self-defense. And again, on the surface, one would say, okay, I accept that. Again, I neighbor, shotgun, walking towards me, screaming, "I'm going to kill you." At some point in time, I have a right to defend myself preemptively. But then to buy into that, you have to accept, and this is the part that took me a long time to the hurdle to cross. Um, that Israel's very existence is an affront to the Palestinian people because Israel has never agreed to um, exist in accordance with the foundational understanding that there would be an Israeli state and a Palestinian state. That Israel was always a project of religious Zionism, even though the majority of people implementing it were secular in nature. But when I say religious Zionism, that's Zionism, the return of Jews to the Holy Land, that was founded on certain Jewish understandings of the Bible and their biblical right. 3,000 years ago, there was a Jewish state, therefore a Jewish state must be allowed to exist in Israel today. And they, you hear people condemn the Palestinians, and I used to be a little harsh on the Palestinians, from the river to the sea. I was like, man, that's very intolerant. The implication there's not going to be an Israeli state. And they're sort of going, yeah, it sort of is the implication because there probably shouldn't be an Israeli state. And I said, man, you can't do that. Israel has a right to exist. And I still believe that at one point in time, the concept of an Israeli state was one that was supportable, especially given what happened during the Holocaust, during World War II, Nazi Germany trying to eradicate the Jews. But that doesn't give Jews a right to eradicate Palestinians. One wrong does not make another wrong a right. And I had read about the Nakba, like others. I'm very good at history. I read a lot of history, but like many people, I imagine history doesn't necessarily sink in until it becomes personal. You read words on a book, you see concepts, you can look at photographs, but it doesn't resonate, especially if you've been inundated with a particular narrative. And the narrative, of course, is the one that was driven by Hollywood. For instance, I read Leon Uris's book Exodus. I saw the movie. Paul Newman made a compelling Jew, even though he wasn't. And you fell in love with this romanticized vision of Israel. In the 1973 war, I followed it, but I never was, saying, "All right, Egypt, cross the Suez Canal. Let's go, Syria. Recapture the Golan Heights." I was like those Israelis fighting back, the brave 7th Armored Brigade making its final stand in the Golan. You shall not pass. And then Ariel Sharon going across the Suez Canal in a brave attack to cut off the Egyptian Third Army. Oh, those Israelis are awesome. Plus, they're using our tanks. And this was the Cold War. And those Egyptians and Syrians were in the Russian tanks. And therefore, they're evil. They're bad. And that automatically wrap that up into the Palestinians because they're Arabs, must be evil and bad like the Egyptians and the Syrians because they've aligned themselves with the Russia. I'm trying to explain to you the very oversimplified notion of the world that I grew up in. And so I never really was sympathetic to the Palestinian cause at all. I mean, I'm sympathetic to humans, but it just didn't resonate. I always said they're to blame. They were part of the 1948 effort of the Arabs to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. They were, the people that were getting ready to take Israel out in 67 and 73. And it's their fault, Israel is blameless. And that's when I went to Israel. That's sort of the mindset that I was bringing with me. Not one of ignorance. I've written articles about this where I talk about how I questioned, Israel's aggressiveness. I stood up in defense of the United States when it was seeking to inject itself in Lebanon as peacekeepers. A Marine captain stood up to Israeli tanks that were trying to violate the agreement. And I took umbrage at the notion that our ally Israel was threatening a Marine captain. I'm like, First of all, you don't threaten Marines. We kill you. We tend to kill you when you do that. And the captain would have killed them. He pulled out his pistol and said, I'll blow your brains out. Then my Marines will finish what's left. But, I also, then that led me to look into things like the USS Liberty. I mean, it's sort of been swept under the rug and ignored by the United States. And then when you read it, you go, wait a minute, they attacked us. They attacked us. Deliberately attacked us. They knew they were attacking Americans, and they killed Americans. And no one's doing anything about it. And so, already, there's questions swirling in my mind. What the heck's going on? These guys are supposed to be our allies, but they're not acting like. And then Jonathan Pollard, spies, takes the secrets. This is a time when I was coming into the U.S. intelligence community. I understood the gravity of the undertaking. I signed documents that said, "Thou shalt not betray the secrets of your nation." And then I looked at what Pollard gave away, and I go, he gave away the crown jewels. I mean, he gave away the really, really, really important stuff that cost us billions of dollars to collect, and he gave it away to Israel, who then gave it away to Russia or the Soviet Union. The Israelis weren't our friends. I mean, this was obvious. But I went to Israel and I worked with them to take out, to work on eliminating Iraqi weapons of mass destruction. I became close friends with them. But I was always uncomfortable by the Palestinians. You're sort of there, in Tel Aviv, drinking Gold Star beer at the bar, and you're going, "Hey, you Israeli guys are cool, man. Your women are beautiful. Wow, this is really nice. What about that village up on the hill?" We don't talk about that, Scott. Why not? Those are Palestinians. Don't look, Scott. Don't look. Why? Because you might see things that you don't want to see. I mean, there's one time I rented a car on one of my few days off, and my wife had come to Israel with me early on, and I took her to Nazareth. My wife is Orthodox Christian. She's faithful. I'm a Marine. I'm not as faithful as she is. I'm working on spirituality, but I'm not there, But she's the real deal. I mean, I took her to Jerusalem. We walked I guess it's the Via del Rosa, the path that Jesus walked with the cross. She's crying. It's very meaningful to her. We go to the River Jordan, where Jesus was baptized by St. John the Baptist, and she puts her feet in the water, and she's there. So we went to Nazareth, birthplace of Jesus, and we went to a church that's built over a spot that people say this could be where Jesus was born. And we bought icons, and in Orthodox Christianity, iconography is a big deal. It means a lot. And so, I mean, they hang in our house to this day, and she prays to them every night before she goes to sleep. And so she had asked me, could you bring another icon? And I went, yeah, sure, I can do that. So I'm driving up to Nazareth, and as I'm driving there, there's just something different about this time, because there's like young men in the street who are wearing masks over their face, and they're prowling around with ill intent, it appears, and they're throwing rocks and throwing things. And I'm like, this ain't supposed to be happening. And I avoided it, drove around, and I got to the church, and in the church, the people are looking at me going, "Why are you here?" I said, "I got to buy an icon." They're like, "You don't really want to be here right now." And I said, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, you do know that this is sort of like an Arab city. It's called Nazareth. It's in Israel, but there are a lot of Arabs that live around here who are very angry at what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians and the Arabs. And they're looking at you thinking you might be one of them." I said, "But I'm American." They said, "Well, get the hell out of here." They sold me the icon, and I got it there. And when I got back to Tel Aviv, my Israeli host called me up and he said, "Scott, are you back?" I said, yeah, I'm back. He goes, "Whew. Now, you didn't go anywhere near Nazareth today, did you?" I said, "Yeah, I went right in the middle of Nazareth." He's like, no. The bottom line is I started asking questions about this relationship. When I went back to Israel in 2009, we saw a wall. I mean, I had seen walls before. I was around in the Cold War. I was in Berlin. I saw the Berlin Wall, and I'm now in Israel, and I'm looking out, and there's a wall separating the Israelis from the Palestinians. What the hell is this? This is ghetto stuff. Like, come on, I read the books. Leon Uris wrote another book about the Warsaw Uprising. I forget what the name of it, Mila 18 or something of that nature. I said, you Jews know what this wall is. You used to live on the other side. You used to live in a ghetto. You used to live in the ghetto when they tried to annihilate you, and now you're building a wall. What the hell are you doing? And then the awakening just keeps coming, and the anger that comes with it. You realize that they don't want to live in peace and harmony. I mean, I could get angry at Hamas when I said Hamas is trying to disrupt a peaceful Israeli people who are just trying to live in harmony with the Palestinians. But then you realize they don't want to live in harmony with the Palestinians. They don't want any Palestinians. They want to eliminate them, get them out of the way, have Israel from the river to the sea. That's the motto of the Likud party. And as all of this starts to jump in, you realize that the Israelis are an occupying power.